All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with season 2, episode 3 of Selfless Little Gaming. I am selfless_gaming. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. We usually do these podcasts on Wednesday afternoons, evenings. So you can see like any of the links and stuff will be posted there on my socials. This is my co-host, Little Jacob. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Little Jacob here. That's Little with a 3 instead of an E. You can also find me on Twitch, TikTok, and Twitter. I also have a Facebook page if that's a platform that you'd like to use. So yeah, definitely hit me up on those socials.
All right. So last week we did our breakdown of the NFL playoffs. We are through the first round. There were some games that we thought were going to be very competitive. They were not competitive at all. There were some games where we also figured teams have no chance. That seemed to hold true. So let's recap first with the wild card round. We had the Bengals versus the Raiders. Kind of starting off there. I mean, the Bengals look pretty good. And then they started to fall into this lapse. Like the first half, it seemed like they just wanted to do whatever they wanted to do. And then the Raiders came out after halftime and it was like, oh yeah, hey guys, we're in the playoffs, by the way. We might want to start playing, you know. And they actually kind of made it a game. They had an opportunity. I personally, watching that game, was very nervous because I was like, to a point where it was just like, dang, the Bengals look really good. And then in the second half, I'm like, bro, is this going to be the Bengals, like the playoff Bengals where they find a way to lose this? Like, don't do this, guys. But they found a way to pull it out. They looked really good. And I'm very happy for that because I know the city of Cincinnati, they've been wanting a football team for a long time to actually make the playoffs, be competitive, and do well.
Yep.
It was very good to see that. Do you have any like thoughts on that game or anything that you saw?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy game. It did get really competitive. It kind of started off a little bit slow, but then of course, you got guys like Jamar Chase out there that pretty much just popped off the whole game, getting open possessions. I feel like the Raiders were doing a good job defensively, up into a certain point where the Bengals just kind of adjusted their game plan towards them. I thought it was interesting that touchdown that Joe Burrow threw, the first one that he threw. There's a lot of people talking about how like it's something that should have been whistled dead or something like that. Or when I saw it happen, I mean, I thought, okay, maybe he was already out of bounds. I saw the replay. I was like, no, well, he was still in bounds. And he got the ball out of there and scored. But yeah, I don't know that rule that they're referring to. I don't know. It was just one of those moments where I wasn't really sure what the right call would have been. Well, I mean, honestly, I felt like that was a touchdown. But yeah, my interpretation of that rule in that situation I didn't really understand where people were coming from. Did you yourself see something different or think, what did you think about that touchdown? And people saying that it should have been called, the whistle should have been blown and stopped the play.
I mean, I can kind of see like where people were coming from with that, but there's also like a lot of rules too. That like once they came out with the ruling, I was like, okay, that actually makes sense. You know? But from a live like perspective, I can kind of see where people are like, whoa, wait a second, why wasn't that blown dead? But we had a similar situation in a game later on that day where teams were trying to hurry up, get set, and go, but like there are certain rules that have to take by. And for example, like the Cowboys game, like the referee has to spot the ball. Players can't spot the ball. So a lot like at the end of that game, there was a lot of people, and especially like Mike McCarthy was just like, I remember him pointing up at the clock, like, yo, like we should have more time on the clock, like at least a second. And it was like, when you watch the replay, it was like, no, the ref never touched the ball. Like Dak gave it to the center. They got behind, tried to snap it, and the ref had to run up and touch it real quick and kind of pull it from him and set it again. Because that is a rule. Like the ref has to set the ball, players can't. So it wasn't like to that extreme, but I can kind of see both points of it. I don't think it was anything, in my opinion, though, that we've had in the year past, like the Tuck rule that has completely indicated the outcome of a game, or like Des Bryant's catch and stuff.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't anything like that egregious or anything, but I think it does like kind of bring to light just another playoff experience of like, okay, like a lot of people kind of see these things happen, and then, well, was there a rule in place? Yes, there was, but sometimes in the past we haven't had a rule in place for it. So I see both sides of it though. Like I can kind of understand why people would.
absolutely.
Um,
It was a really good game overall. I
yeah,
mean,
I,
and then I didn't feel like the Raiders did, have a shot, even, a couple of times during that game to win it. And it kind of came down to the wire too, because like you said, when it came to the second half, kind of seemed like the Bengals just tapered off or they
hmm,
got away from the game plan. It's just I'm not quite sure what to make of what happened there. Um, but it's gonna be interesting to see how they play going forward. And this weekend, I'm sure there's a lot of good things to come out of that game for them too.
oh yeah, I think
So
that's a big thing. One for the organization. I
yeah.
think with the experience that they have, and like what I mean by experience is that team's fairly young on offense. Like you got Joe Mixon, who's probably the most experienced person in the backfield.
Yep.
Um, Joe Burrow's only his second year. Jamar Chase is his first year. He's got some guys in like Tyler Boyd, who's been there for a couple years now and stuff.
For a
So they
while.
got
Yep.
like a little bit of a veteran out there on the wide receiving like core, but team's pretty young, and for them to kind of get out there and do what they did, and then just the boost from the city alone, that's actually like really big moving forward. I think where is it? They're on the road this week. See this week,
Yeah.
but like to me, I think you could actually have a lot of fans travel this week to actually go and support Cincinnati down
Hmm.
at the Titans because that's not very far. Like
No.
if you're looking at it, you're maybe looking at 3-4 hour drive. Um, so not too crazy far, but I was just happy to see them perform the way they did because honestly, about midway through the season, the Bengals have really started to catch a nice little groove with their offense, with their team. They started to I create their own identity, and they've like stuck to that identity, and it's just been working for them. So it's good for them to get that chip off their shoulder of always making the playoffs and falling short and doing something stupid. So,
Yeah,
uh,
and a big also the coaching too.
yes,
That's a big part of it, especially when you have such young players like you were saying, to have them locked in and to have the season they've had and to win to come out winning that football game. That's a big part of it.
one thing that we talked about, and this is like, I think it's my father-in-law
Hmm.
or maybe a guy at work. I can't remember who I was talking to, but Joe Burrow, he reminds me so much of Tom Brady, not in the aspect of like his play, but his mindset. Because like I remember watching The Shop, LeBron James's show on HBO. He's got like his show
Yep.
called The Shop. He gets out, all these athletes come in, they just sit in this barbershop and just talk about things going on in the world or talk about sports. And I remember Tom Brady was on there. And Tom Brady kind of hinted at how like in college he
Hmm.
was kind of overlooked, and he made it a point to like become the starter, be the guy. Did very well at Michigan. And then there was teams in front of him that like should have taken him and they didn't, and he fell to the Patriots, and he was just kind of like, okay, like I'm gonna remember that and I'm gonna make you pay for that type deal. And Joe Burrow, he kind of has that same mentality, man. Like he wasn't getting the playing time he wanted at Ohio State, so he went to LSU. And his first year at LSU was kind of rough. They
Yeah.
did okay, but it wasn't like anything what he did his senior year. And then they brought in the offense coordinator from the Saints. I can't remember his name, but the guy, he just made it a whole mission. And I remember in college, he's like breaking all these records and stuff, and he's like, "We're winning the national championship this year. There's nothing less." Like he was out to prove a point to everybody in the country that y'all should not have passed up on me. And he kind of just has that same aura of like, I'm gonna come out here and prove a point. Like I was the number one pick for a reason, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I like that about him, man. He's got a little swagger about him, and I like that. Um, Moving on to our next game, the Bills versus the Patriots. I remember we talked about this, and we thought this was going to be a competitive game. This could not have
Yeah.
been a more lopsided game that we had all weekend. Um, Josh Allen went off. He went 21 of 25 for 308, five freaking touchdowns.
Yeah.
Dude was balling all day. Their tight end, Knox had a great game for tight end. He had two touchdowns. He had almost 100 yards on five receptions. Like that guy was just balling. Um, but man, defensively, they just were all over the Patriots. Like, did you see that coming at all?
No, it didn't. I mean, of course we talk all the time about how, as even though on paper one team might look better than the other, the professional teams, you expect a certain effort or level of gameplay to come out, even if it's even some of the worst of teams sometimes. But no, I mean the Bills scored like every single drive, literally
Yeah,
every single time they got the football, they got it down the field and they scored. That's not something you expect to see, especially in the playoffs. So, I mean, I don't think we saw a more dominant game in a while in general for a team to be able to do what they did to the Patriots. I was saying it too that I thought it was going to be a competitive game and it wasn't even anything close. So some of the guys were just like, you know what, we'll switch between this and UFC, or we'll change it back. So this just keeps look like it's getting worse every time we flip the channels. Um,
yeah, it was
but
bad.
yeah, I mean that wasn't expected at all to see them get blown out like that, especially with Bill Belichick and his reputation and his history in the playoffs. Even though he doesn't have Tom Brady anymore, you would think that they would have put up a better fight. It's definitely a tough first playoff loss for Mac Jones, that's for sure.
Yeah, but the thing with that too is I think that's such a big learning experience
Oh yeah.
because we've like talked about it how teams go in the beginning and you have young guys and they'll do like great during the regular season and then all of a sudden it's like come playoff time these teams that are struggling it's like these veterans now are like yo it's playoff time like we talked about
Yep.
it with I think the reference to like LeBron like there's certain athletes in every sport when it comes down to that time of like championship mode their whole entire gameplay their demeanor, everything just completely
Changes.
like changes and
Yeah.
elevates to a whole nother level. And you sit back and like the Bills were a perfect example of this, where I was just kind of like watching this game too, and I was like, dude, where has this been all year? Like they have been so high and low. It's that team's been
Yeah.
nothing but a roller coaster. And seeing them play the way they did, I was like this is the team that I said I think season one, episode three of like the Super Bowl goes through Buffalo. That's what
Yeah.
I was seeing. And then it's like, the rest of the year they were just up and down. And it's kind of like, I don't know, man, this team has no consistency. I don't know if they can make a playoff run. But week two, the playoffs is completely different. So, but yeah, I thought that game was going to be way more competitive than it was. It was over very quick. So, but that's a good learning experience for Mac Jones organization. They kind of see where they're lacking some personnel
hmm
and stuff at. That's what the draft's for. And the Patriots, the one thing I will say about the Patriots and why I think they've been so good for so long, well, if they like after the playoffs, after the Super Bowl is done, everybody immediately looks to the draft. Okay, like who's going to draft who? Where's this
Yeah.
person going to go? I feel like the Patriots don't look towards the draft. I feel like the Patriots take their like war room is what they call it for the draft prep and stuff. And I feel like they put everything up there on the board of who is up for free agency, who can we make trades for that has a contract deal that is like with 1 year left that we can acquire for a cheaper deal and get more veteran guys in the building that have experience because I think they're the best team with off deal like negotiations and trades out of any organization in the NFL. They've been doing it so well for so long.
Yeah.
Um, that's what they like work towards. So it'll really be interesting to see what their moves are in the offseason, especially for Mac Jones because he showed his worth this year. Like I think he was a good draft pick. Now,
Hmm.
there's people that were questioning that, but I think he did very well this year. Um, Next game, the Bucks versus the Eagles. I mean, we saw this one coming. Uh,
Yeah.
Old Tommy was at it again. He just controlled the game, controlled the tempo. Mike Evans stepped up, had a great game. I think he had like 9 or 10 receptions. He had well over 100 yards, touchdown. But their defense, man, they were just all over them and everything. Did you see anything from the Eagles though that you liked or did not like during that game?
At the beginning of the game, it kind of just seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of urgency on their side to move the football. I mean, I'm trying to find the stat, but man, they barely even they were barely averaging so many yards of play. I mean,
Because they
it
didn't
kind
score
of
till the
just
fourth
seemed,
quarter.
yeah, exactly. And then it just, I don't know. That last game was just, it was just a really ugly game for them. Um, they just didn't seem like they were in sync at all. The running game, once that got shut down, and it's kind of what we saw during the regular season with the Eagles. Once their running game starts getting shut down, and Jalen Hurts is throwing the football, it's going to be a hit or a miss. He was off on some throws. Then you got the issue with the receivers, just not there catching passes. The defense for them was doing really good. There were several times, especially before the half, they were getting to Tom Brady. They were stalling drives, getting sacks on third down. So the defense pretty much was the only thing that really kind of played consistently that whole game. It was more of just the offense just never really getting going. And then when they did, it was kind of already like too little, too late. Um, Tom Brady and the whole Bucks team already got momentum and were pretty much having their way in the passing game for the most part. Yeah, I mean the Philadelphia Eagles just weren't able to keep up at all. They weren't being consistent enough.
And the thing that really stood out to me in that game because
Hmm.
we already said like out of all the games for the wild card weekend, we pretty much said last episode like Chiefs are probably going to smash the Steelers, and then the Bucks are going to smash the Eagles. That was a game that we just already went ahead and said those teams are moving
Yeah.
on. But the Bucks came out and put 14 on them first quarter, and to me, just the way they came out compared to the way that the Eagles came out, that was the true difference in a very veteran team that knows who they are and knows like what to do in this type of position compared to an Eagles team that has a lot of young players on it. Some veterans, like there's obviously veterans, not all rookies.
Yeah.
But you could just see the level of like, and when I say professionalism, I don't mean they're not professional, but like guys that have been doing it for a long time. Like Tom Brady was in that locker room before the game and was like, guys, this is what it is. This is what we're doing, period. And everybody's like honed in on what this dude's saying because he's done it so many times.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it just looked like a well oiled machine with them. They put up 14 in the first quarter, 3 in the second quarter, 14 in the third. They shut the Eagles out all 3 quarters. And then at the end, that's kind of just like garbage time, And the Eagles put up 15 in the fourth quarter. So,
Yeah, and I mean, also you got to consider the Buccaneers aren't they don't have Godwin, they don't have Fournette, who is a really big part of their offense,
mhm.
and they just with Bruce Arians and guys like Tom Brady, especially with Tom Brady around, he reminds me a lot um, of LeBron in the sense that he can get his teammates to play better. He, like you're saying, he is a field general. He's also a coach. Bruce Arians I think said at one time too about Tom Brady and coaching that sometimes he doesn't even really have to coach. He just lets Tom go out there, talk to the guys, probably even lets him run his own plays
Oh, I'm
because Tom's
sure.
done this for so long. He's a true leader, just like LeBron is too, in the sense that he makes everyone around him better. He can run the team at the same time, run the tip of the spear and hit home with success and make things happen, score points, and that's what you saw Tom do. And it seems like even in the past when he was on the Patriots, he'd have these guys on the team, receivers on the team that are backups, people you never heard of, and they're making big plays. He's throwing the ball to a receiver you never heard of. I never heard of that dude Hogan until he made that big time catch in a crucial moment in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
Um, so
like
this
Chris Hogan, I think it was.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just examples of guys like Tom Brady taking whoever he has around them, regardless of their backups or not, and helping them, play at a higher level. And that's what he did in this football game. Um, Looking at the team stats, yeah, it's some pretty crazy team stats here. They both only had 4 penalties. Third down efficiency was almost about the same. The Eagles actually had better third down efficiency. It was 35% to their 30. Um, Tampa Bay allowed 4 sacks. So there were some interesting stats there, but at the end of the day, it came down to the more veteran team, the more poised team, and that ended up being the Buccaneers by far.
I
Mike
know.
Evans killed it. He had 9 catches, 117 yards,
Yeah, he had a
and
great
that's out
game.
of 10 targets. So Tom threw it to him 10 times, and he got it to him 90%. Like that's, you know, that they have their guy. That's who they're going to throw it to. That's Tom knows in the back of his head, where everyone's going to be and who he trusts the most, and he put that on display there against the Eagles.
Um, all right, we're gonna skip this next game because I'm gonna come back to this to be the last one. Right. Chiefs versus Steelers. Patrick Mahomes does what Patrick Mahomes does. Dude went 30 for 39, over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. Travis Kelsey freaking popped off. He had 5 receptions, 108 yards with a touchdown. The only thing with the Chiefs, okay, that I will say about this game, they started off slow.
Yeah,
Okay, it was 0-0 at the end of the first quarter, and then they just kicked it on. My thing with the Chiefs is with Clyde Edwards-Helaire being
hmm
out, I think that is a huge component for them with the fact that he is not in, because I feel like teams now where they've seen the Chiefs for 3 years now, 4 years now, they know how to play against one dynamic of them. But when Clyde Edwards Helaire is out, that opens up a whole nother dynamic for him because he's a deadly running back. Like he can actually like pop off and he can pretty much take a huge workload off of Holmes.
yeah,
And I kind of feel like that's what led to that slow start was the fact that their running game really wasn't there. You know, they already kind of tipped the scales to be more of we're passing this game. Like we're opening it up, we're gonna throw it. We don't have our running game in and everything. And against a better team, like say if they were playing the Titans or hell even the Bengals, like I don't know, man. That game could have been a way tighter game. It could have been a lot closer than what people think. So if I think they need to get him back personally to really have a good chance at a run at the AFC Championship and get back to the Super Bowl. Because that was one thing I just noticed from their standpoint is like they're playing a not very good Steelers team, and even though they still beat them
yeah.
41 or 42-21, it was just one of those things where it's like, man, they're playing a better defense and a better team. Like I don't know, like this could actually pile up on them kind of quickly. So
Yeah, and unfortunately for Ben Roethlisberger, that's definitely not. I mean, for anybody, that's not the way that you want to go out on your last football game before you retire. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Chiefs clearly a better team, but like you said, they're not playing necessarily a really competitive team in that sense. To where it could have been a lot closer. You're right. Um, they really limited the Steelers on the ground too. Najee Harris, which is one of the top rushers this year, he only had 2.4 yards per carry. On 12 carries, he had 29 yards. I mean, receiving, there wasn't really, huge numbers. Only 2 guys caught touchdowns, and uh, Ben had to spread the ball around. Ben fumbled. Najee Harris fumbled. Um, TJ Watt got that big score. That
yep.
was pretty cool. But that's it. Those are like some of the few highlights that they had. The rest is just all Kansas City. being able to overcome their mistakes and some of the things that they did, because there was times where they were exposed, and it seemed less because and I hate to take away credit from a team, but it kind of seemed less because the Steelers forced those mistakes and more that the Chiefs just made a mental mistake, or
Yes.
they screwed up something that caused it to happen, like that botched handoff that TJ Watt ended up taking back. The scoop and score and everything. That was just a bad execution on that play that they were trying to run. And definitely with the next opponent that the Chiefs are going to play, which is Buffalo, that just completely ran through the Patriots like they were a practice squad. That they're going to have to come better equipped, because when they drop 42, Buffalo can actually be the team that ends the game by dropping 45 or
Yeah,
48
they can keep
or
up.
more. Like, just in general,
Yep.
they're going to be there with them every step of the way, every drive, and they're coming in really hot right now. So that's going to be a good game to watch going forward,
See,
and to see how they can do.
what's crazy is I remember when we were talking like at the beginning or like third or fourth week of the NFL season, we kind of sat there and I remember us talking about the pretty much the AFC championship game, like who do you see it being? And we talked about the Chiefs versus the Bills, the way they were playing. And both
Yeah,
teams hit those lulls in the freaking middle of the season where they just went on those ruts of loss after loss. And everybody's like, what the hell's going on with these teams? Now they got to face each other in the divisional round, where we were calling this game to be the AFC championship round. So that game is going to be wild this weekend. Um, real quick on the Steelers,
hmm
that team, like, I'll say two things. One, even though Najee Harris had a good year for his rookie year, I expected more from him and what the Steelers have shown over the past, like with their running game. They have
yeah,
always had a very strong running game. I don't know if he maybe was victim of teams stacking the box, knowing that Big Ben just could not get the ball where he needed to get it to. Because that was kind of that thing with Peyton Manning, his last year playing. A lot of teams, it's very evident Peyton did not have like the arm strength and the accuracy that he once had. He struggled to get the ball where it needed to be, and teams would kind of load up the box to take away the running game and force the games to be more on Peyton. So I don't know if he kind of fell into his performance being due to that. But I did kind of like, I was hoping more from Najee Harris after seeing what all he's done throughout his college career. And the Steelers have always had a great running game. When it comes to Big Ben, I enjoyed watching him play. The guy is going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's had
yeah,
an
for sure.
outstanding career. I kind of wish he would have just headed out a year early. Like I know he didn't want to end his like career on last year with his injury to his elbow and everything,
Yeah,
but like it just seemed like the guy was taking so much heat all year with his performance. And that's like all the talk was about was like, man, they just look awful on offense. He's just not doing it. I remember I called him Cheeseburger Eddie and stuff at one point because he's trying to run and make plays on the
I
field and
mean, there were
he's
some
literally
games where that
falling over
game
his
was
feet.
absolutely awful. Like, just
Yeah,
absolutely awful. It was.
and it's like this guy has had a like he has one Super Bowl, which is amazing. A lot of people don't
Yeah,
even get Super Bowls,
yeah.
but he's had an outstanding career. It was very cool to see the fans, and their support for him over the years. I remember one big sign that said, "Thanks for everything you've done, Ben. We'll see you in Canton." And I was like, "That's awesome," that they
Oh yeah.
recognize that. So kudos to him and his career. It's good to end your career, healthy and
When
not
it's
injured and
yeah,
stuff.
and yeah, and that's the main thing too. Like, even though yeah, I said it, and it does to suck to kind of go out on a losing note, but that's the winning part is healthy. And you have to understand, Big Ben has been banged up like for the longest time now. You always see him with all these ice packs all over his body.
Yep.
The guy's been roughed up over his career. I'm glad, like you said, that he's able to literally walk off the football field under his own accord, and be for the most part healthy, because that's the important thing, especially playing quarterback in the NFL. Kind of an indication of where Ben was and where he's where he's come throughout his career. Um, Ben is 3-7 in the postseason since 2011. No Super Bowl appearances. When Ben first started, this is a great. I mean, this is a great record for anybody would want this. Ben Roethlisberger was 10-3 in the playoffs, and he had 3 Super Bowl appearances between 2004 and 2010. I mean, that's just when they were on fire. He was on fire. They had a monster team. They had a great running game.
Yep.
Things were a lot different at the time. And also, speaking of Hall of Famers, Andy Reid passed up Hall of Famer Joe Gibbs for 17 wins, or the fourth most playoff wins amongst head coaches in NFL history. So
Wow.
that's pretty big for him. Like Andy Reid can win in the playoffs. Like he makes it happen in the playoff game. So it's definitely big kudos to him. And the rest of the stuff here is just Big Ben making history in different ways. Ben surpassed Brett Favre, third most postseason yards since at least 1950. He passed Terry Bradshaw, 10 for the most playoff games with 2 touchdown passes or more amongst Pittsburgh quarterbacks in 1950. So, he was able to stack a couple of really nice accolades for himself at the end of that football game.
Yeah, he definitely had a good career, and it's good to end, like you said, on a high note with like not being injured, being able to walk off, stay healthy, everything. It sucks
Yeah,
going out
for
on a
sure.
loss, but that's why you play the games, man.
Yes, sir.
Um, Rams versus the Cardinals. I didn't see this coming actually. I thought this was another one of those games where like this is going to be a really competitive game. We talked about this game.
Yep.
Um, and the Rams came out and just gave it to him, like just straight gave it to him.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes back to what I've said past couple episodes is these mobile quarterbacks do great during the regular season and stuff, and then it's like when it comes to that playoff game, it just seems like teams are like, yeah, we've known how to defend you. We just didn't want to show you earlier. Now we're going to defend you, and they just shut him down.
Yeah.
And like
Um,
Kyler Murray just got shut down.
and shut out. I mean, honestly. And then I know one of the guys in my fantasy group was talking about, well, he doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins. Well, maybe true, but that also isn't an excuse to. I mean, it's not a reason to throw 2 interceptions
Oh,
and less than 200 yards in a game. I mean, that's pretty crazy to me that they cannot throw for a single freaking touchdown. As great as they were playing all year, they were undefeated at one point. Everybody thought, man, this is the last undefeated team. Can they stay undefeated? Um, and it just seemed like at one point, like you said, Kyler Murray got figured out, and it just started to just go downhill from there.
yeah.
And this was the absolute worst game that the Cardinals have played all year. And it's crazy how a team can start so high, such a high performance level at the beginning of the year, and then it just kind of just disappears. It crumbles.
Yep.
And that's what that was. That was almost, I would say that's probably a worse collapse than my team Dallas and how they played. I mean, 11 points, one touchdown from a rush, and the rest are just field goals. I mean, that was pretty bad. 34-11. That I mean, they didn't score until the third quarter. By that point, the Rams were already up 21-0. It was just a big game. The Rams were ready. They came out. They were making big hits. They just seemed to know everything that the Cardinals were going to do.
Bro,
Uh,
here, listen to this
so,
stat, okay?
mhm.
Kyler Murray went 19 for 34, 137 yards with 2
Oof.
interceptions. All right. The total offensive teams, like total yards, was 183. You
Crazy.
have less than 200 yards as a total offense in the NFL. That is insane. Whether
Yeah,
you have DeAndre Hopkins on the field or not, that is insane that a team shut you down that bad when you were one of the most explosive offensive teams in the league this year.
yeah,
Like that's just wild. And like if you look at the stat lines and stuff, like you could say like, well, that doesn't make sense because Murray had 137, Edmonds had 28 yards, Kirk had 51 yards. Like, but you got to think like the sacks and stuff that takes away from total yardage. That's
yeah.
why that's so low. but that's still just insane. They came out and just absolutely stuck it to one of their divisional rivals. Like I just did not expect the Rams to come out the way they did. Um, I personally, I know we didn't maybe talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I was more concerned with, are the Rams going to be able to score enough points to keep up or keep close? Because I figured their defense could help stop and get some possessions back. But Matthew Stafford came out and played a great game, man.
Yeah,
Played
his
really
first
well.
playoff one.
Oh, man, I don't know. I just didn't see that game coming at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I remember something someone was saying. Well, they're getting JJ Watt back. Well, guess what, guys? JJ Watt got one tackle for a loss and two assisted. Which I mean, at the end of the day, all respect for JJ Watt, one of the greatest defenders of the century in my lifetime, but he's just not that guy anymore. And especially being out as long as he has been, for you to just go back into the playoff atmosphere and just jump straight into gameplay like that, he's not that kind of animal anymore where you can just be like, yeah, I had all this time off, I can go in there and just get at it. No, like it was non-relevant to have him out there, unfortunately. And just like when not too long ago the Texans were in the playoffs against the Chiefs, they got JJ Watt back, they got him in there. He's gassed. He couldn't play that many snaps. It kind of came down to the same thing. And I was also surprised how bad the Cardinals defense played too, to be honest. Also, man, prayers up for Buda Baker. I haven't seen like anything about like his condition and
I haven't either.
how he recovered from that really gruesome hit. And that's one of those things you don't want to see in football, or any sport for that matter, for a guy to kind of go down like that. And I'm sure he has a huge concussion. So hopefully he's recovered a lot better. So it was just an ugly game overall for the Cardinals. Um, all the stats on here are it's just bad. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how they turn it around. They might. My thing is that having DeAndre Hopkins out there, how much better could they have really played, even with
Yeah.
him out there? How much better? I don't think that much better. There's one play where Kyler Murray is trying to not get a sack in the end zone, and I get what he's doing, but he kind of just flops the ball up at the last second, and it gets picked and scooped and scored for 7. In that situation, I think you might as well just take the 2 points of the safety
Yeah.
instead of having 7 get dropped on you. And that was just one of 2 of the silly interceptions that were thrown.
How much, like, before we move on to the Cowboys game, how much longer do you see JJ Watt playing?
And honestly, he can try. And I say this because it's not because he's not capable of it, like himself, like the willpower wise and his attitude. I'm sure the competitor is still there, but his body just doesn't seem to hold up
Yeah.
anymore at all. It's always something that for him is breaking down or busting. And that just comes from, I mean, just years and years of playing at the level he does, the intensity he does. Your body can only hold up for so long, especially playing in defensive line. I mean, you constantly got big guys coming at you, trying to knock you on your behind. It's a tough position to play, and he's a tough player. But man, I'd be surprised to see him play in a full season next season if he even can. Um,
I mean, I don't
you know,
know, to be honest, I don't know the last time he's played a full season. That's why I was
yeah,
asking. Like,
it hasn't been. It's been a long time. A
yeah.
long time since he's been able to play a full season, because it always seems like there's something that breaks down, something that tears, and it's just, man, that's rough to see a guy go through that over and over, constantly getting injured, constantly in and out of the hospital. Kind of like with Andrew Luck was kind of like why he stopped playing football, because he's like, dude,
Yeah.
I'm just tired of
Of hurting all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
going to the hospital, getting surgery for this, getting surgery for that, rehabbing, getting poked and prod all the time. I mean, it sucks, man. So I really don't see him playing more than one more season, if he does.
I mean, I agree with you there. Like, the guy is crazy competitive. I mean, you've seen his workout videos and stuff. The dude's insane. And
Yeah,
maybe he needs to like tailor that stuff back, man, because like naturally he's a big guy, he's athletic and stuff, and like doing the training sessions and stuff he does year round, like in the mileage he has on his body. We talked about
yeah,
mileage a long time ago. Um, Maybe he needs to start tailoring that stuff back and do more like, I don't know, like body weight stuff or just like more compounded lifts and not as explosive stuff. So, I don't know, but
It's
I
at this
I
point.
don't want to continue to see him always being out because of a significant injury. Like I really like JJ Watt. He
Yeah.
is an insane defensive player. Um, and it's I don't know, man. Last just few years, it's just been like when you've heard about JJ Watt getting talked about, it's because he's out with a significant injury for a long time.
Yeah, and at some point you got to think about your future. Where do you want to be when you're 50? Do you want to
Yeah,
be able to walk, on your own, not have health issues that some players potentially do in the future because of how many times they've gotten broken or something's broke or tore, you know?
yeah. All right, let's get to the last one here. Got the Cowboys game. Cowboys lost to the Niners 23-17. Um, I like the thing I saw with the Cowboys game was two things. Number one, you called it last week. Said we can't be a bunch of we can't commit stupid penalties. There's a lot of stupid penalties. Like some of them, I won't lie. There were some penalties that were thrown during the game. And I'm like, really? Like we're throwing this? But then there's some stuff where it was just like from me when I was coaching, I'd literally look at my guys and be like, guys, what the hell are we doing right now?
Yeah.
Like literally, what are we doing right now? And there's just some that just made you scratch your head. Um, my thing is, man, is when I was watching the game, I can't remember what quarter it was, but like it was the play where you had three wide receivers stacked over to the right. You had Schultz over to the left, I think. Tony Pollard in the backfield, and they literally ran three slants across the field. They hit Cedric Wilson. The guy catches the ball and he's already got a first down essentially. And then he just throws it across the field to Tony Pollard as like a lateral. Was nowhere close to him. And I just remember sitting there and like to me it came off one of two ways. One, it looked like Tony Pollard maybe didn't know what the hell was going to happen. Like he didn't know that ball was supposed to come to him. Or he knew that ball was supposed to come to him and it was so badly thrown on that trick play that he was just kind of like, bro, what the hell was that? You know? But to me, it was like, why do that? Like the play you just ran was perfect. He could have caught it, got 10 yards or 9 yards. You're looking at 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
And it was just like they did that earlier in a I want to say it was the Cardinals game. They tried doing that before. And the ball went flying out of bounds. And to me, I felt like the Cowboys early on this year established their identity. And I just felt like the last like few weeks, it was either in the game, they completely got away from what got them to where they were, or they stuck with what they got them to where they were and they just plowed through teams. In this game, I just kind of felt like the penalties is just like, dude, what is going on with this team? Like it looked like first game of the year type stuff. And
Yeah,
then
dude.
like some of the play calls, I'm like, that makes no sense to me. Like I don't really question a lot of play calls because there's always like um what's it called, like statistics behind them and like percentages and like in this like a lot of people are like, why on 3rd and 4 you're gonna throw like a 40-yard fade? Well, because like the guy's got to honor that. Your defender's going to be like right in his grill, so you can probably get an easy pass interference call. Like there's actually a high percentage that pass interference is most likely going to be called on those type of plays, and you're going to get the ball like 40 yards down the field rather than if you run a slant and you get it 3 yards short. Like there's actually good statistics behind that, so I understand some of those play calls.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Like I felt for you, bro. I know that is your team. You're a diehard fan, and just sitting there watching that, like they had such a phenomenal year this year, and for it to go down the way it went down, it was like I felt for you, bro. Like I really did, man.
Yeah, and normally I'm upset and so I'll shout, but I can tell you that I was upset so upset that I was just quiet the whole time because that's how angry I was. Because I would have accepted if we lost this game because we just flat out got beat by a better opponent. But that wasn't the case. It was more of the fact that it seemed like every way we could, we shot ourselves in the foot over and over. So Dallas committed 14 penalties. That's tied for the second most in a playoff game in NFL history, most ever in the playoff loss. Like there's no, that's not acceptable. Even in a regular season game, 14 penalties is ridiculous. I
Mm.
mean, there's penalties like you said that yeah, some of them were like they were stupid, but then there was some that were it's like just players doing stupid things like pushing someone in the back when they don't need to push them in the back anymore because the play's already gone, or things like Randy Gregory, just jumping the line over and
Bro,
over, lining up on the line.
and
It was just ridiculous.
Randy Gregory did some stuff, bro, where it was like there at the end of the game, you guys had the opportunity to get the ball back. And y'all were like putting the pressure on the 49ers to like get out of the run game, and y'all need to throw to like ensure you can win this game and like shore up the clock. And y'all had them in a prime spot, and then he just comes across the line and didn't even go for the play. He just grabbed the offensive lineman and just like tackles him and swings him down.
Yeah, and we're tackling linemen. Like we
Yeah.
don't know that that's gonna get called every single time.
And I
The
just
line judge is gonna see it happen, and he's gonna throw a flag every single time. He wasn't the only one that did that either.
no, I
Just to
know.
tell you how, yeah, and then just an example of how bad we were just being in general. Jimmy Garoppolo threw for less than 200 yards and then threw an interception. He didn't even throw a touchdown.
Yeah.
Like we put him in, like if we would have played our game, our football, this score is easily not 23 points, or at least we have probably close to 30, if not more than 30 in this game. But again, that was probably the most painful part of watching that entire game is the fact that we were there, we had opportunities, and it just seems like during the regular season, time and time again, we go and we commit dumb penalties, and it just makes me wonder, like what is it? Is it the coaching? Because it starts at the top. Why there's no discipline there? It
Yeah.
starts at the top. Is it the coaching? Is it too lax? Also, it's telling me that maybe we just do not have as good as an offensive line as I thought we did. And it's definitely far from what it used to be. Like when Dak first got there, we lost our center. He retired early, unfortunately, because of his autoimmune disease. Tyron Smith is at that age now where he's not going to be playing much longer because he's injury ridden. Zach Martin is probably the only constant that's there. So a lot of our best linemen are either retired or on the verge of retiring. And the other guys that we got up there, like Collins and them, like it's like they're good, but they're not consistently good. And by that I mean they're committing dumb penalties. Because when you have to hold, traditionally, if you're a lineman and you hold someone, that's usually because you're getting beat, because
Oh
someone's
yeah.
beating you to the football, someone is pushing you back, whatever. So I don't know that our linemen are as good as we thought and hoped that they were. And it kind of tells me more about maybe why, sometimes a running game would get shut down or suffer. And I mean, you got Zeke out there running with a partially torn something in his knee that for like since week
Yeah,
four.
did you see that news today?
Yeah,
So
I'm
he
not surprised. I knew he had been hurt for a while.
yeah, he had
At the
a
time, yeah,
torn PCL, which PCL ligament isn't like extremely crucial for the knee. You got your MCL, which is like on the inside of your knee, and then your
hmm
ACL. So like basically your knee sits like this. Your ACL prevents your knee from going backwards like this, like
yeah,
hyperextending. And then MCL prevents it from going like on the inside. Your PCL is like more outside, which your knee's not naturally like gonna do that anyways. But
yeah,
someone in his position with cutting and having to stop real quick and change direction and all
yeah.
that,
It's gonna suck.
like
Yeah.
that's definitely gonna impact your running game for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna hurt. I mean, you're talking about constant pain that you're gonna be in. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's a competitor, and I can understand why he wouldn't want to sit. Um, and he was just trying his best to help us win the football team. But yeah, I mean, it just comes down to we lost this game because of lack of discipline and focus. And then some questionable stuff at the end. I don't know how I feel about that whole quarterback draw at the end.
So here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. Because I did not want to talk to you about that play until we did the podcast. All right.
Yeah.
What did you think when that play call happened? Because I know what I thought, and I'm going to explain what I thought, but I think it just went completely wrong. Like it got botched. Okay. So I want you to start with it, and then I'm going to give you my 2 cents on it.
I felt like I didn't understand why we were throwing the ball so well that we decided to run it with no timeouts in that situation. And then I also thought to myself, why not at least throw a small or a short route or something to where somebody can get out of bounds, or at least you can get to the ball, get it, get set and spike it. It kind of just seemed like, I mean, I get the idea of behind what they were trying to do. If Dak had got it in time and spiked the ball, it would have been like at least one more shot, and that would have put us like within the 20 yards to get a touchdown. But I don't know. It happened so fast, and then once the time ran out, and the ref kind of seemed to get in the way, and then it was just like it was a bunch of just like mixed frustration coming in from the whole situation, especially with the officials. And yeah, I don't know. I felt like we should have kept throwing the football. I didn't understand, with that much time on the clock, why we're having Dak run up the middle like that. But that's what
So,
ended up happening.
so here's my thing. Okay. If you go back and watch the game
Mhm.
to that point, at the start of that drive, the 49ers were 100% just like, I'm not going to cover the sideline. Right.
Yeah.
So Dallas starts nickel and diming them just right down the sideline, picking up ground. And they got confused. They called timeout. Then they started stacking the sidelines, okay, to take that away because they want
Hmm.
to push you to the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Dallas continued to move the ball. So with that setup, in the last play, because it technically was the last play,
Hmm.
to me, that is a great play call. And the fact that you can, one, get a first down, but in that situation, your quarterback has to know, one, where the down marker is, and
Hmm.
that play's got to be practiced and practiced and practiced. Like, guys, if we run this, you guys have to literally follow him down the field. When you get the first down and you get no more than 5 yards past the first down, slide, take a knee, turn around, throw the ball to the ref, get on the ball, spike it. Because that, if he would have done that, he ran like an extra 10, 15 yards past the first down marker, which I know in his head he's thinking like, I want to get as much yardage as I can to get as close to the end zone as possible. I 100% understand his mindset. But if he gets the first down marker and just a little bit past it and they get set, the clock automatically stops because it's first down. You technically could have had 2 shots at the end zone there.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I understand like where the logic was, but it just completely got botched. Like he went too far. The referee did not follow up on the play. The referee should have been running down the field following up on the play,
Yeah.
because you can even see they run up and get set, and the ref's still in the backfield. And it's like a second to 2 seconds go by, and he's like, "Oh God, I got to get to where I'm supposed to be." And then
Yeah.
he runs up, grabs the ball, and stuff. Like everything just got botched from that. Um, so like that's like the coaching side of me is like when I saw that, I actually was like, "Oh shit, that's actually a smart idea." But then when everything just started like going haywire and people weren't set, and then the refs started grabbing balls, like, bro, they literally just wasted their own time. Like they just wasted it, you know. So I
Yeah.
I know what they're trying to accomplish and achieve, but to me, it was like that's a good play call, but it was obvious that that wasn't part of their 2 minute package. That wasn't drilled in those guys. Like if we call this is what everybody has to do.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as he goes down, everybody's got to be on the line, go type deal. So I think if it would have worked, you would have had a very exciting ending because the plays would have been towards the end zone. And
Yeah.
then with the athletes and stuff, Cowboys have on the outside, you never know like what could have happened there. Um,
Yeah.
but it sucks, man. They had a good year, they really did. Um, be interesting to see what happens with them in the off season and
Yeah.
how
Because
things
right
go.
now, I mean, you got Dan Quinn, which I hope he sticks around. You got Dan Quinn interviewing for a head coaching job, and then Kellen Moore. I'm not so much enthusiastic about his play calling. So if he were to go, I saw something about him. He finished conducting one with the Minnesota Vikings. If he gets the job and takes it, best of luck to him. I wouldn't mind us going a different direction with an offensive coordinator. Of course, whoever that is going to be. The offense will still be built around Dak and Zeke and all those guys out there. So yeah, it's going to be a long offseason, unfortunately. And they've already shown that stupid last play 100 times on Sports Center and all that. And I know I'm going to have to watch it again and again for like the
Dude,
rest of the
that's
offseason and in the preseason. It's like going to be, God dang it. I've
that's
seen
the
this already.
worst thing right there is like
Yeah.
when you had such a good season and that's all your
Yeah.
season is shown for is one
That
play.
last draw play. Yep.
All right, this week we got Cincinnati at Tennessee Titans, 4:30 game on Saturday. Bro, I'm liking the Bengals, man. My hat, I'm taking it off. I'm throwing it in the ring, putting it on the Bengals. I'm probably stupid for that, but I'm going with the Bengals, baby. Who they say gonna beat them Bengals, boy?
It's gonna be a good one. And also sometimes I don't know. So like when it comes to getting a bye week in the playoffs, I feel like it's different than when you get a bye week during the regular season because sometimes you can come off of that rested week rusty
Oh, yeah.
or not as on point as a team that just played the last week.
Hmm?
Um, so it's going to be interesting to see what goes on and how it happens. I mean, of course, you got the more veteran team is going to be the Titans. They have more veteran players that have been around longer. So that may not be something that really affects them. Um, but the Titans are 0-2 in the playoffs as a number one seed since it began in 1975. So they haven't had the best luck being in this position themselves. And of course, the Bengals just came off that really hot win. But one thing that the Titans do have that's going to be really interesting to watch for Saturday, they do have Derrick Henry back. So I'm curious to see just how back he really is, because if he starts popping off and really like moving the football, which he's more than capable of doing, it's going to be a very long game for that Bengals defense. And of course, when you have someone like Derrick Henry that opens up the passing game for Tannehill and those receivers and the play action, that might end up being what kills the Bengals if they play the way they played against the Raiders in that second half. So that's going to be something to watch out for. I think if you're a Titans fan, you're really excited for Derrick Henry coming back, and you hope to see him get a good workload coming Saturday, because that's going to be a big factor.
So they said this came out a day ago. All right.
Mm-hmm.
They have not released if he is going to be playing or not, but
Mm.
he has passed all tests for contact practice. So he has gone through contact practice. He has been practicing during contact drills, and he has passed all the tests and stuff of those, like practice sets, those drills, everything. Don't know if he's officially back or not, but he has practiced like basically the first step. It's like, okay, like pass your rehab and stuff. Okay, let's
Yeah.
get you into some contact drills, see how it is. Okay, let's get you a full practice, see how it is. Okay, you're cleared. Let's go. Type deal. So
I think if I'm the Titans coach, I probably I play him, but I won't let anyone know till like the day of or like
oh
an hour before the
hell
game. Yeah.
no, hell no.
The
They're not
Henry
gonna know until the coin toss, baby.
right
And
into the Henry
yeah,
suited on the sideline and be like, hey,
yeah.
the last second decision, and then the Bengals can be like, oh shit, we didn't prepare for this.
Hell,
We
if
didn't prepare
anything, I'm
for
gonna get
that.
him one of those gigantic coats that cover like all the way down to the shins and tell him to
Yeah.
wear that on the sidelines. I'm gonna have his shoulder pads and stuff sitting on the bench, and then when we go out for the coin toss, he's taking that coat off, putting his shoulder pads and stuff on. That's when they're gonna find out who's
Yeah.
gonna be in there.
And for those of you who are listening that may not particularly care or pay attention to the Titans or who Derrick Henry is, but let's just put it like this: this monster of a
This
football
is
player,
crazy.
this monster of a football player is literally the kind of guy it would take at least 5 or 6 players to collectively make an effort to bring him down because that is how big and powerful he really is. And we've literally seen him move piles and stiff arm a cornerback across the other sideline. So that's going to be fun to watch if he's in there and he's really getting after it. Because they might even have to throw the ball that much if he's really kicking their butts like that.
Um,
But the Bengals defense is going to come. I think they're going to come with it pretty strong and come ready to play. Especially after that performance that they got that win. That's usually they're coming on high vibes right now. So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's predicted that the Titans have a 53% win probability. NFL predicted the game score would be 25-24. It probably won't be that close, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was close. The Bengals won the last matchup, which is in 2020. That was Halloween. It was
Um,
31-20.
I think you'll know real quick
Mm-hmm.
at halftime how the game's gonna go.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about rest and like having the bye week and all that stuff. Like I think you'll have a good indication in the first half of okay, Titans they're well rested, they're ready to go, they're coming out firing on all cylinders, or man, they look like crap. You know, they're slow, they're not game speed isn't there, blah blah. Like you'll learn pretty quick in the first half. And I won't lie, anytime I talk about college, but like Ohio State, when they go on a bye week and then that next week they come back, that game always makes me the most nervous because they've been off for a full week, you know.
Mhm.
So um next one Saturday is Green Bay, technically divisional favorites out of the NFC, facing the San Francisco 49ers. Um I'm just gonna go ahead and say Green Bay with this one because the 49ers
Yeah.
did have some injuries from their game that didn't come out healthy.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, I don't know, man. I just think this is the year. Is like technically, potentially his last year in Green Bay. I think that team is fully focused, bought in. There's no, like, there's been drama and stuff with the way they've played all year. Matt LaFleur's like play calling and stuff. I think this is just their year. Honestly, I think the only team that is a threat to them personally is the Bucks or the Rams. Cowboys had the
Yeah.
potential if they got there, but the Rams defense, man, is so good. Like they are so good.
Yeah. And you
Um,
got guys like Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I mean, those are
Von Miller now too.
yeah,
Like
Von Miller. That's right. I forgot about that. They do have Von Miller.
their defense is so elite. I see Green Bay coming away with that one. You never know though. Like too, like it's one injury that can take place and completely change the outcome of it.
Yeah.
But I'm going Green Bay on that one.
Yeah. I just don't see, even with some of the things I saw against Dallas, I don't see clearly Green Bay making that many stupid like mental mistakes for one. And also just the dynamic combination of Devontae Adams, which we all know is a baller. I mean, he's one of the best that's ever done it. And he's going to be a Hall of Famer in the future. Him and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, when they turn it on, especially in the playoffs, I mean, they turn it on.
Hmm?
So I wouldn't even be surprised if this game just gets away from San Francisco too, because of how high powered that Green Bay offense is.
And their defense is playing well too. Like Green Bay's defense has been pretty well.
Yes.
Now, Sunday, Rams versus the Bucks at Tampa Bay. Rams got to travel across country. To be honest, with the travel in the NFL, those guys have been out there like already since like Tuesday. Like that travel stuff doesn't really affect you that.
No.
With that being said, though, Tom Brady, his first loss of the year, was to the Rams
Mm-hmm.
at the Rams. So I don't know about this game, man. I actually see this game being very close. I see
Yeah,
both defenses really putting a lot of pressure on the offenses because the Bucks offense is not 100%.
that's true.
The Rams offense has struggled and the Bucks defense is very good. Um I personally think this game is going to come down to Matthew Stafford. If he can control the tempo of the game, just manage the game, not win
Yeah.
it, but manage it because his defense is that good to put a lot of pressure on Tom Brady. And their defense has changed quite a bit since they played Tom Brady. They got some more weapons on their defense now, the Rams do. So I think if he can personally just manage the game, not do anything stupid, they have a shot to win it. I think if the game slowly transitions into the fact of Matthew Stafford has to go out and win the game, I think then Tom Brady is going to pull it out again and be in the NFC Championship.
Yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of people know this in for themselves too, is that one thing we've learned about Tom Brady, you never ever count him out ever from any kind of playoff game. Crazy thing to know about just how good Tom Brady is. Tom Brady has won 9 straight divisional road games dating back to 2011. That's the longest quarterback win streak in NFL history,
It's
which is
crazy.
crazy because he gets it done and he just wins. I mean, that's when it comes to these games and to these kinds of scenarios. This is where Tom Brady has made a name for himself as being the greatest of all time. So it's insane. This is the 8th playoff game the last 30 seasons between opposing starting quarterbacks that ranked top 2 in passing touchdowns. Yeah, Tom Brady threw 45, Stafford threw 43. They're really similar
Oh, they
in
are.
their stats this past season.
They very much are. Um, Chiefs, Bills. What are your thoughts?
That is going to be a really good football game. I mean, I know that the Bills just came off of that game where they ran through the Patriots, but they are going to be facing a significantly better football team on both sides of the football. I think it might be a high scoring game, to be honest. Um, there's a lot of weapons on both sides for both teams, both great quarterbacks. They can both be, they're both are mobile. You know, Josh Allen, that's a big guy, and he can get out there and he can run it. That's exactly what he showed you this past weekend. And Mahomes too. I mean, they both are similar in a lot of ways and how they perform. But if anything, I feel like the Chiefs might be able to edge it out if Mahomes is firing on all cylinders. They might be able to edge it out. It's going to come down to whose defense makes enough stops. And I mean, honestly, Buffalo Bills have the ranked number 1 defense. Kansas City is more on the lower end,
Mm-hmm.
27th. So that's not really in their favor. But things change in the playoffs. You know, stuff happens. Sometimes teams play better than. So it's going to be a really good game. I'm curious to see who shines for the Chiefs, if at all. It's either going to be Hill or even his favorite. I think his favorite target, which is Kelsey. Um, Looking at the comparison for quarterbacks, it's really similar. Allen's thrown 36 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. Mahomes thrown 37 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. Their passer rating is pretty identical. But yeah, I mean, the thing that's going to matter the most is if the Chiefs can go out there and really take it to that Bills defense, who's been really superb all year. It's going to come down to who can get the most stops, I think, because both offenses are capable of putting up 40 or more
Yeah.
each game. So yeah, I'm excited to see that game for sure.
I just, like I said earlier in the episode, I think if the Chiefs can get their run game going, they're going to be very hard to defend. If they can't, I actually see Buffalo handling. No, I don't want to say handling them because it's Patrick Mahomes. The guy's just incredible with what he can do with.
Yeah.
But I see the Bills having a much like steeper advantage in the football game with the defense that they have and the offensive like weapons that they have. Um, if the Chiefs cannot get their running game going, I see them falling short and Buffalo taking that one. But it just depends, man. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, man, the Patrick Mahomes is a tough guy to deal with. I mean, a lot of the time, it's good players like that are only not going to play good because they make their own mistakes, not
Yeah.
because someone else is is doing it to them. Um, Man, I sometimes I think about where would the Chiefs be if they still had Kareem Hunt, or if they still had a running game, like the kind of running game that Kareem Hunt used to bring to the table. That was a time I think where the Chiefs were the scariest, because you didn't have a way to have answers for everyone on the field with Hill, Kelsey, Mahomes' legs, and you got Kareem Hunt and his ability to run the football. I honestly think that, even though, yeah, they're obviously the Chiefs are going to get a really low draft pick. They're not going to have like a high draft pick or anything. But man, if they can get a running back that kind of fits into their system
Yeah.
the way that Kareem Hunt did at one point, man, this would be a different football game. I think we would be talking about this a bit different if they had a running back like that right
Well,
now.
see, and
Because like you said,
that
the
is
run,
technically Clyde's Edwards-Helaire. Like
yeah,
he kind of is that back, but he's just started having like injury issues and stuff, man, and
yeah,
hadn't been there this year. Um, real quick before we wrap this up, huge, and I mean huge UFC fight this weekend. Okay, who do you have for the heavyweight throne? Ngannou or Gain?
man. Honestly, that's a really tough one.
Both guys scare the living bejesus out of me.
Yeah,
They are
they're
monsters.
both guys that you would, if they bumped into in a bar, if he smacked my girl's behind, I'd probably buy him a drink and apologize for
Oh,
it.
I'd give him my wallet.
I'd
Be like,
apologize to him.
it's on the house, bro.
Apologize to him for getting in the way of his hand.
I would actually yell at my girl for backing into him and
Why
ruining
would you
his
do
evening,
that?
you know?
Put me in this predicament. Why would you put me in this predicament? No, but no, I don't know. I honestly think that I think I might have game taking this one. If
I
he
do too.
right? Like I like Ngannou, but if he fights the way that he fought the last guy, I think he's gonna make him wrestle, and that's where it's gonna come down to on the ground, and he'll get him tired out and work him out. But man, if they stand up slugging, it's kind of like it's just
Oh,
if they stand up slugging, it's kind of just like up in the air, like
because
I don't
Gain has hands for sure. Like
yeah,
the guy can throw some bombs, but if he wants to do that in front of Nagano, like, dude, you're playing the most dangerous game right now because that guy has shown from him like even stumbling back and just like throwing a right hook, he can just clip you and you're out.
yeah,
He's got so much power, it's insane.
yeah. Just to give you guys an idea of how big this dude is, Ngannou, this dude is 6'4". He weighs 263 pounds, and he's just all muscle, dude.
Yeah.
Like he's a monster.
And honestly, during the fight, he'll probably be like 285. Like he'll probably be
Yeah.
because they did weigh-ins I think today or yesterday. So they always give them like a couple extra days to like get their liquids and stuff back in them and all that and everything. So like he's because Brock Lesnar used to do that. Brock Lesnar would have to cut down to
Mhm.
like 265, but then when he would fight, he'd be every bit of like 285, 290. Like he was massive. And it's just insane how like their weight can fluctuate and stuff like that. But I think that's what kind of gave him his diverticulitis. Him having to like cut weight and then how he would eat, train and stuff. Like I think that's what actually like kind of led to that. Honestly.
Yeah, and what Gane got going for him too is he is a good bit lighter than Ngannou, which means he's faster. He can get in and out of danger quicker. So it's going to be interesting to see, how he plays it and staying within range. I mean, Gane's got a great, powerful jab that he's able to put on display before. It's just going to be about taking, countering, and receiving those shots. But one thing that Ngannou doesn't want to do is take it to the ground. He wants to stay on his feet the entire time. It's going to give him the best chance. They call it a puncher's chance to win. It's going to be a really good match, man. I mean, in the UFC, you know how it goes. One punch can just end everything, and
Yeah.
these guys are swinging with like what seems like megatons of force at each other with
Literally
how much power they
TNT.
have, dude.
Yeah, they're literally throwing bombs. Like it's insane. Um yeah, I mean I and the thing with this too, this kind of been like UFC. I just hope it's a good fight. We've had some of these cards that have come up in the past and they've been just duds. Like it's just guys laying on each other or just really like playing the slow game and then it turns into like, oh, here's the decision. And it's like, bro, like nothing happened this fight. Like, how do you even score this? You know,
Yeah.
and then you have some where it's like they come out and within 35 seconds, dude's knocked out cold, and that's it. You know, so
Mhm.
it's should be a good fight for sure though. Like the pay-per-view is actually loaded this weekend. If you guys are hearing this and stuff, very good card. I won't be buying the pay-per-view. I'm actually going to try to go to like B-dubs down the road and watch the fight myself because
Nice.
I don't want to miss this one. I'm actually very intrigued with this. But
Yeah, and Gaines is really good in the clinch too. I mean, he's good at sneaking in some elbows and some knees, and those can even though those aren't usually like one shot things in the clinch, those things are kind of strikes that wear down a fighter big time. I mean, you're taking knees to the gut and elbows to the side of your face. I mean, at some point it's gonna give.
oh yeah,
He's been really good at doing that. Gaines' last fight against Lewis, I mean, that was big time awesome. I mean, he beat him up, and and don't get me wrong, that dude Lewis is also another guy I would not want to be on the bad side of, or meet in the dark alley. But he sure made him look less of a tough guy because he won by technical knockout. They had to stop the fight because Lewis was just getting tagged up. So yeah, I hope for just because is what I like to see. I just hope it's mostly hands and striking
yeah,
for that fight. So yeah, definitely excited for this big time heavyweight fight.
yeah. It should be a good one, man. Definitely should be a good one for sure. That's gonna wrap it up for us though this week. Y'all be safe out there if you guys are traveling and stuff. Always tell somebody you love them. Okay, we need to do more of that. Tell everybody that you love each other, even if I don't love you personally. I love you. Okay. But we appreciate y'all tuning in. Once again, I am selfless_gaming. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm trying to bring back MySpace. I'm trying to make that a thing. It's not working yet, but we'll get there. Little Jacob, close us out, brother.
Hey guys, little Jacob is little with 3 instead of an E. Also on TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch. And also I forgot to mention earlier as well as YouTube. So have a Facebook page as well. If you utilize that, you want to reach out to me, have any questions or any suggestions on what to talk about next, or definitely feel free to hit me up and let me know.
Y'all be good. Peace.
Later.
All right. Stop recording.